Sheriff Riggs is with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. A little bit of rain for us this morning.
Right. Thought it was going to be a real soaker this weekend, but I think some scattered showers, but overcast, not like it's going to be overly sunny or anything.
Yeah, I've got Youth Firearms Hunter Safety tomorrow, so I'm hoping it doesn't pour all day.
How many you get to sign up for that?
It is crazy. They usually accept anywhere from 40 to 50 students if we've got enough staff to help out.
Accept. So there's more than...
Well, there's some people that want to walk on. There's a couple that don't show up, but we get kids from all over the state. If you go on the Minnesota DNR's website and a class pops up, it's full within minutes.
Really?
So, yeah. So we'll have kids in our class from Albert Lea or Rochester. Parents will drive them up here if they can get into it to get their kids signed up for hunter safety. That's how in demand that class is.
Are we the only ones that offer that in the state?
No. There are dozens.
You guys just do a really good job, or what?
Well,
I think there'd be one in between Albert Lea and...
Yes. I think we do a great job, but and we this year we've done this will be our third class this year, it's through Bemidji Area Shooters Association, and I think Minnesota Deer Hunters Association has helped sponsor some of these classes as well too. So it's one of those things where when you find a class, you get in on it. So.
I know that there's one in Lake of the Woods coming up, I believe, next week. Free. The Lake of the Woods County Sheriff is sponsoring it and doing it for free.
Yeah, we do.
Why is it so important for sheriffs to have hunter safety?
And you know who has guns, but the responsible ones, that's for sure.
Right.
Well, isn't that a great example of firearms and how to use them and what people that know how to use them do? They know they have to sign up for this class. They got to get their kids into it.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Responsible people that go out and hunt, and legally you can't. You're not allowed to hunt in the state of Minnesota until you've had hunter safety, which is very, very important. I couldn't tell you the year that's required, but I remember, I'm almost 53 years old, and I had to have it back in the day. And back in the day, they taught it in school. We had it in school.
Like, hey, it should be.
Yep. So.
You're kidding me. They taught it in school?
Yes. Yep.
Well, this is a place to learn.
Yep. And we had law enforcement officers that helped teach it to us then. So, sure. I mean, yeah.
That's awesome.
Bringing your shotgun into...
They didn't bring the guns into school, did they?
No, they did bring some... The instructors brought some in for us to, like, observe and, to learn the firearm and whatnot and proper carry techniques. We didn't bring our own into the school at that time.
Well, I went to high school in Wyoming in the 80s, and so it was legal to have your 30-06 in the window with a special rack. I mean, it was a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Today, people are like, well, somebody would try and steal my gun. So
that's exactly
or
what it is right now. It's an open invitation. I have something very expensive in my truck.
Have times changed?
Yes.
What's going on at the law enforcement center?
We just got our DWI grant approved. So the first year that we had our DWI grant was 2020. This is coming up 2026, so it runs from October 1st to the following, September 29th or whatever it is, our 30th. So the state of Minnesota gives us about $150,000 a year to staff a position full-time that the sole function of their job is to go out and look for impaired drivers. And so we just renewed our state contract with them for another year. So pretty happy about that. Deputy Hardy does an excellent job for us.
And he doesn't make $150,000.
No.
By the way.
No.
Counts his rig, right? His squad, and
there's training that comes with that. There's this, there's a squad. There is obviously the benefits package, so health insurance, retirement, those kinds of things that get lumped into it. So yeah.
What are the differences from a law enforcement standpoint of finding a drunk driver and finding one on drugs?
Driving conduct can be similar. So erratic driving, the divided attention. So things that happen when you're impaired, whether it's through alcohol or through drugs, is, hey, I can go the speed limit, but because I'm concentrating on one thing of watching my speedometer, now I'm not watching the road and I'm all over the place. Or I'm going to keep it between the lines, but now I'm driving 30 miles an hour in a 55, and or I'm driving 100 miles an hour in a 60. So then there's obviously we get a lot of public input when it comes to this as it pertains to calling people in. So I'm southbound on whatever road, and I have a vehicle in front of me that's all over the road. So we don't always have a deputy that's going to be like right there, but a lot of folks, like when they're traveling to and from work, they're traveling to and from something, they'll come across something that they believe is maybe an impaired driver. They'll report it to us, and if we can get a deputy to the location, or a police officer,
sure,
trooper, however it works out. When we observe the driving conduct, we can pull the vehicle over and conduct an investigation and find out why. Sometimes it's people on their phone. Sometimes,
no way.
Yeah, say it's not so, right?
Knee drivers because they're eating.
That happens. Yep. Putting makeup on in the car, not such a great idea, but it happens.
Shaving, I've seen shaving, but that's gross. You get all those hairs all over your car.
County board passed their preliminary levy for the county's budget for next year, for 2026.
You weren't called in to calm the crowd down, were you?
No, we were there. So we were actually there. Jarrett and I were there because when the county board is going to look at a budget, so the budget committee contains actually 2 commissioners on it. And those 2 commissioners sit down with our Jody Treat, our auditor, and Tom, our county administrator, and they go through a budget. We present budget. Every other department presents budget, and then when there's questions, we go back and forth on the things that we need and what does it look like? What can we reduce? With the budget cuts that the state of Minnesota and the feds have offered us this year, it's not a pretty picture. Health and Human Services was really affected the last couple of years with this. And ultimately, we have lost, I think it's been a total of about 7 positions over this year and then next year. But it was all done through attrition. So it's like nobody lost their job, which is what people want when it comes to those kinds of things. But you think about it, giving up 7 positions that you're normally used to having, kind of a big deal as it pertains to providing, the services that the state of Minnesota says we have to provide.
And is it safe for me to assume the people that utilize those services are also the ones that you interact with on a regular basis?
Some of those, yes. Not all, but some of them. Yep, absolutely. And when, so we were there in the event that the other 3 commissioners had questions about our budget, we could go up to the podium and answer them. So through the work session, when the budget was presented, we were there. And then for the final levy vote, which occurs during the regular meeting, they don't vote on things during the work session. So during the final meeting, to make sure that our budget passes, we were there. And of course, that was the whole library thing. Interesting, lots of passion for sure. Pretty energized group of people. And, you have to admire people that are that passionate about certain things.
Sure. That's what community's about.
I think that I'm in a position where I don't get a say on it. Right, that's not my call. I think as a taxpayer in Beltrami County, we 100% need education. We need the resources to educate people. I think some of the things that people didn't understand from the preliminary budgets is we really the county commissioners are in a very, very tough spot. And when you're talking about levy dollars, you have to weigh out the cost of services and what you're required to provide and what you're not required to provide, and then make a determination on what you should and shouldn't put out. And, you know, those, you know, Commissioner Gould had talked about, you know, using other funding for that. Well, that gets kind of difficult in some situations because, you know, we do have reserve funds, but, you know, now we're going to spend a ton of money out of our reserve bank for this storm that we just had.
Right. And
that's how, you know, you have to push that out upfront it for possibly up to a year, which could be, you know, if we're talking $9 million, you know, between the city and the county, I don't know what that number looks like for us. And then, you know, come a year down the road, we might be reimbursed up to 75% of that. Well, that's going to eat into our reserves. Yes, there is some funding sources inside there that could be used, but, you know, and that's not my decision to make. That's, you know, the other commissioners have to weigh where those funds should be utilized. I found it very interesting to hear that, you know, there was 16 entities that are a part of the Kitchigami Regional Library System, and only 4 of them, and we don't have data beyond 2022, it sounded like, only 4 of them paid above what the state minimum was for the KRLS system. And I'm like, well, why are only 4 of them, and Beltrami County is one of them? That's a question that I had in my mind too. It's like, well, not everybody else
aren't paying. Why are we?
Yeah, exactly. Why are we the only, you know, one of 4, or, you know, one of 4 entities outside of 16 that are paying above and beyond? I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying, you know, why are there other people that are not? And if the state has a mandate, why is it so low? These are just questions that should be answered, you know. I don't know that we necessarily have the answer. Like, the county has the answer. Obviously, we do have a representative on that board, and I think that Commissioner Gould would most likely find that information out, because I think that question was asked, and I think if they want a chance at, you know, the final, you know, budget being set for the year, that might be something that the taxpayers want answered before any decisions get made, for sure.
Well, I'm just glad people still go to the library.
Not everyone has that phone that we have.
Right.
I talked to a lady that was utilizing the services. We talked after the budget meeting, and she had said she goes there twice a week. She doesn't always feel safe in the library, which is it's kind of a public safety concern.
Sure.
But she does utilize the services, and she says, I've been involved in a couple of situations there where I didn't always feel the safest. And, you know, that's...
The library should be like the safest place you could go.
Yeah, we were talking about it the other day. Like, you know, back in my day, family would drop us off at the library, you know.
Pick you up in 5 hours.
Yeah, we'll see you in a little bit and pick you up. You know, I don't know if I don't... To be quite honest with you, knowing what I know as it pertains to the calls for services that we get there, I don't think I would drop my kids off there by themselves to be left to the devices of that facility. So,
you never know how many criminals you're going to have in a given year. How do you set a budget?
That is a good question. It is. We look back through historical, you know, like what kind of things have we done, and it's really a guessing game. We can tell you roughly, you know, we need this many cars, and then you have the deer that see otherwise, and we end up wrecking our cars. Typically every year we probably have 6 to 8 deer hits, and this is the start of that season. Public safety announcement, folks. Deer are on the move right now, so please slow down and drive accordingly, especially at dusk.
But I suppose it's close to the same every year, just by average.
Yeah, we set. You know, there's always some things that happen, you know, for as far as like inflationary costs. We try to think about, like, what is fuel going to be for us, what is services going to be, what are services going to look like. You know, we set our budget for our jail medical, we set our budget for how many times we think we're going to go to the ER with somebody from the jail, and those are all out of county, or those are all out of pocket costs for the sheriff's office when we pay that. And so we have to kind of try to budget for that. How many times we think we're going to get sued? Yep.
Okay, I have to ask, what's the average there?
Well, if you'd asked me that question a few years back, it would have been, we budgeted $10,000 for the year. I think we still budget somewhere around that. But every time we have to obtain an attorney through MCIT, it's $5,000 retainer.
Right.
So when I took office, my very first meeting was with my attorney, and he said, well, congratulations. You just assumed 5 lawsuits from the previous 2 sheriffs. And congratulations, here's another one. Yeah, here's another one. And then I've been in office almost 3 years now, and they just pop off, and 99.9% of them have been from the jail. So inmates not happy about food, inmates not happy about.
Well, speaking of the jail, that's looking good.
It is. It's clipping right along, it seems like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they right on schedule?
Yes, doing very, very well. Very pleased. The builder, we've been in contact with, on probably close to a weekly basis as it pertains to how the progress is going. I know the county commissioners are going to be getting their first tour. I believe it's in November. And we kind of saved the builder kind of discussed it. The reason they wanted to wait till November is because then the ground will be like level in the building. The concrete will be poured, and so there's less likely for injury, when people like are walking around and tripping on rebar and that kind of stuff. So they wanted it somewhat in shape for people to arrive and have a clean walking surface. So
awesome.
How many times have you utilized your personal hard hat?
I've not. Well, my personal hard hat every day that I do tree work.
Inside the jail?
Never. I have not set foot inside of it yet.
Really?
Nope. I have looked inside of it, but I have not walked in yet. And solely for the fact that I don't want to be the guy that interrupts, the flow of work. I have no problem going there and checking things out, being the nosy. What do you call it? The nosy.
Are you going to have an office there?
No.
Oh.
Nope, I do not. Nope. My office will remain downtown at 613 Minnesota.
Gotcha. Well, you have a good and safe weekend.
Yeah, you guys as well.